Real quick, everybody, can you mute yourself if you're not chatting so we get, there's going to be a lot of people on the call. Nice to see everybody. And thanks for joining us. Todd, are you live yet? Adam, if you're going to be doing 360s and James Bond stuff in Bozeman, you got to turn your camera off because we're all going to throw up. Started making me crazy. He had like 7 closings last week, and now he's just, look at that. Way too cool for any school, that's for sure. Okay, we'll wait for Todd. I'll try my hardest not to fill the air with more bad jokes. But it's tough. Shar, nice job on your Instagram. I'm really proud of you. Way to go. Nice. Shar was scolded on Friday at our fan club because I looked at her Instagram and she had a bunch of followers, but guess what? No posts, and now she has like 7 posts, mainly due to Cinco de Mayo, but at least she's posting, so nice job. What else I got? Hi, Ange. Keel.
Hey, Derek, stop yelling at me, dude.
Okay. Someone else can fill the space. Todd, you're recording already. Excellent. Okay, I'm gonna shut up and let you drive the bus.
Beautiful. Hey, everybody, what's happening? We got a good crowd today. Oh, good, awesome. All right, let's give just a couple minutes here to let some stragglers on, but and maybe I'll share with you a little bit about where this all has come from. I get a lot of questions about some very specific things, right? Like, hey, what's the best place to generate leads? Like, what's the secret sauce behind this? I get a ton of questions about P&Ls. And it's sort of a funny deal. If any of you guys saw my video on Facebook this morning, like Shannon should be teaching this class, not me. But it's probably one of the most critical pieces of all of our business. And so what I'm hopeful for today is just to have a really kind of informal, I'm going to shoot some questions at you. I've asked that you all know your numbers today. And again, you folks, I don't care if you are like, I have a CPA and they do QuickBooks and I've got P&Ls, or if I like write things on a piece of paper. It doesn't really matter how you do it. You need to know your numbers, right? And I think hopefully everybody on this call, especially those that have been going through coaching, absolutely understand the importance that we place on tracking and measuring and that kind of stuff. But we're going to go through some just kind of basic stuff. I'm going to challenge you to think outside the box, come up with some different ways of thinking about what your goals are, get them down on paper. I'm going to ask you to share a little bit. So if you don't want to share, just be quiet. It's the opposite. Those people that are quiet, I'm picking on, just so we're clear. So, all right, so I think we are, what time is it? All right, we'll give another 60 seconds here because we've got a couple of stragglers that are still going in. Would you do me a favor, though? Would you go ahead, if you don't have your numbers with you, will you pull those up? And I don't really care if this is an exercise for you, not for me. If you've got 2017 numbers and you know what income you had and what your expenses were, awesome. If you don't, like all I've got is April's, that's fine too. Or maybe you have the first quarter of this year. Whatever it is that time period that you want to use, we're going to have some conversations about what it costs to operate our business, what it costs to operate our personal lives, and of course, how much money we're going to have to make in order to feed that beast and our future. So, all right, so we're 5 minutes past the hour, so we're getting right in. First things first, how many of you have a plan for where you want to be in 3 years from a wealth perspective? Anybody?
Josh shook his head yes. I can't wait to hear.
Who said yes?
Josh had his head shaking yes,
All
but
right,
he's
I'm just
on
gonna
mute.
start picking on some people. Christy Reese, do you have a plan for wealth, what wealth looks like in 3 years?
I have some plans. I wouldn't say that I have an exact 3-year plan down the road and exactly how much I'll have, but I have worked on future wealth goals.
You know it's good, right? It's really good in 3
Yeah.
years.
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay. Angie, I did see your message, so thank you. So let me ask you this. Is there anybody willing to, well, I don't even want you to share. How about this? Grab a piece of paper, and what I'd like you to do is I'd like you to write out what wealth looks like in 3 years. Like what's your definition of wealth 3 years from now? For everybody, it's going to be different, right? Yeah, thank you. Mm-hmm. Beyond. What does wealth look like in 3 years? Get as specific as you can, right? Like it's what your net worth is, how much money you have saved in the bank account. I don't know what your 401k is. Like get specific as you can. What's up, Yaz? Okay, so next question. How much does it cost you to run your business? And again, you guys, this can be monthly if that's how you think. It can be quarterly. It can be annualized. Just how much does it cost to run your business? Robert, the first question is, what's the definition of wealth for you in 3 years, right? So like, this is my net worth. Yeah, I'm just thinking like, I've got all my debt paid off. I've got this much cash on hand. I've got these properties, net worth, that kind of thing. So again, it's just the definition of what wealth is for you. And then the follow-up question to that is, what does it cost you monthly, quarterly, annually to run your business? Okay, so separate question number 3, how much does it cost you life, right? So now we're separating business from personal. Okay. So now we should have our just definition of what wealth looks like in 3 years. We should have what it costs us monthly, quarterly, or annually to operate our business. We should have the same answer for our life. Next item is, what is your net worth today? Right? On that same description of wealth in 3 years, or that same definition, what is your wealth today? What's your net worth? And for those of you that are challenged with that whole deal, like you can Google like net worth worksheet, and there's countless worksheets. Basically, all it's saying is this is how much cash I've got. This are all of my liabilities, and then here's my number, right? Anybody have any questions about how to get to that number currently? Everybody good? Anybody need any more time? Show of hands. Anything? All right. Okay, so now that we know where we're at currently, and we know where we want to be. There we go. All right. And we know where we want to be please mute yourself. Okay. We know where we want to be in 3 years. We know where we are today. Where do we want to be a year from now, right? So now let's think about that for a second. So we're saying, all right, so in 2021, this is where I want to be at the end of that year. All right, so taking them in steps, what is my net worth in 2019? What's the number at the end of 2019? What's the number in 2020? And then we have the answer already for 2021, right? Because that was our definition of wealth 3 years from now. So let's do this. Why don't we pick 5? What are the 5 very specific actions that you know you need to take between now and the end of 2019 to reach that goal? What are some examples, Mark? What are some examples of some specific actions that we might see on that list?
Yeah, one of the things for me that I notice is as my sales goals get a little bit bigger each year, my cost of doing business does not rise that much. You know, my memberships and designations and realtor associations, office expense, most of that is fixed. And so I find I get a little bit better margin each year that goes by because my expenses only go up incrementally as maybe you have some more listing package expense in there.
So live to a budget and increase in revenues?
Yep. And so the more your revenues grow, I find that my expenses stay a little bit flatter. And so I get a little more margin every year that goes by.
Okay, awesome. Jeff, any ideas of what we might find on that list?
Mine's kind of the opposite of Mark's. I find that our expenses actually go up as we get a little busier and busier, but no, I'm just kind of walking right into the room, so I just got the tail end of that one, Todd. I apologize.
No, that's okay. All right. So I mean, typical things, right? Well, I've got to increase my revenues. Makes sense. I've got to establish a budget. I got to live to the budget. I've got to cut some expenses. I've got to pay off credit cards.
Todd,
Saving money. Who is that?
that's Christy.
Hi, Christy.
I have on my list to pay down more principal on my rental properties.
Awesome. That's great. For some of you, it may be to buy a rental property, right? Because there are two different ways, right? There's active income and there's passive income. Passive's more fun. Okay. Does everybody have their 5 things? Okay, so now do me a favor. Send it to your coach. Okay? Make the commitment. Let your coach help you. Like, that's what this is all about, right? We're on this journey. We're working our butts off. In the end, we're here to accumulate some wealth so you guys can not sell real estate one day, yeah? So share it with your coach. All right, so going into the finances, and again, this is the part where I feel like Shannon should probably be teaching this class, not me. So, but well, she's sitting over here. She can correct me if I make any mistakes. When we start talking about our businesses on the finance side, obviously your budget is very, very important, right? How many of you are currently operating with a budget? Show of hands. Okay, so I got Mark, you're doing it. Josh, nice. Okay. Joni, Becky, nice. Okay, Adam, well done. Okay, all right. So this is one of those opportunities from a coaching perspective. We get to say, hey, there's some opportunity here, right? If you, how do you think about this? So your budget is kind of a roadmap, right? If I told you to jump in the car and find yourself in, I don't know, Hoboken, New Jersey, how many of you people could reliably find the shortest, most efficient path there without a map? Right? It doesn't really happen, yeah? So your budget, your budget needs to be broken up into 2 different pieces, right? You should have a business budget and you should have a personal budget. And you're going to have what they call fixed expenses in it, and those are the things that are always going to be the same. That's, whatever. It's your phone, your desk fee, your lead gen sources, your fill in the blank, your fixed expenses that you can count on year after year, and then you're going to have your discretionary expenses. Everybody understand, like who has a who actually has like a Quicken or QuickBooks or something like that, Mint, or some kind of a spreadsheet so that you can actually see what your expenses are. Chrissy, are you still working with your CPA and you're getting that, right? So you have it, right?
I get a profit and loss at the end of every month.
Okay, so you get a P&L, all right.
Yeah.
Anybody else operating with a P&L or something like it? Okay, Becky, thank you. Okay. All right, so Jim, all right. Robert, great. Thank you. Jeff, awesome. Okay, Kelly, great. Okay, good. So for those of you that aren't working off of a P&L, I'll kind of give you the high points, right? The top lines are very specific to your income, right? You'll have your gross commission income, and you'll have your what we call cost of goods. For those of you that aren't operating teams, there really is no cost of good, right? For those of you operating teams, that would be where the commissions to your team members would go, right? And then that'll give you your gross profit. Gross profit, then below that is going to come all of your expenses. And down, once you've taken out all of your expenses, you're going to end up with your net income. Okay. So again, you don't have to do this in Quicken or QuickBooks or anything like that. You can very easily just do this in an Excel spreadsheet. It's really not there. It's not that complicated. You can do exactly the same thing on your personal life, right? Anybody, there are many of you that are operating on a budget from your professional life. How many of you are operating on a budget on your personal lives? Great. Okay, good. Okay. So when we talk about creating wealth, hopefully what you all can see is that in order to accomplish that number, that 3-year number, you have those specific actions that are in there. Hopefully you can see there's a tie-in there, right? You have to know what the numbers are. You've got to know what your budget is so you know what to live to. You have to know what your income budget is so that you know how much money you actually have to make. And you have to know that that's got to increase based on each year. So they all become sort of tied together. You definitely have to have a budget and operate with some sort of a profit and loss standpoint. Tell me, what's your average sale? Anyone? What's your average sale?
Derek, for me, my average sales 314,600.
Okay, awesome. So what's your average cost per sale, Mark?
About $1,000 per sale.
How many transactions did you do?
12.
Okay, so you operated your business for $12,000 last year?
Yes.
Okay. $1,000. Anybody on the call going, I want to talk to Mark and find out how he did his business for $12,000? No? Yeah, right. Jim said, I want some of that.
And that number does not include the office split out of there. If you put the office split in as an expense, then that would go up quite a bit.
Okay. Okay. Anybody else? Who knows what the average cost per sale is for them? Okay, so for those of you that have your P&L in front of you, right? So all you're going to do is you're going to take your total expense, not your net income, your total expense, and you're going to divide it by the number of sides that you closed in that same period. Anybody else want to share? Schilling, what about you, buddy? What's your average cost per sale?
I'm just over close to 4,000 actually. About 3,700.
$3,700 per sale. Great, thank you.
And then my average transaction was $1.2 million.
Great. Becky, how about you? What's your average cost per sale?
I'm looking it up right now.
Okay. Kelly Maves, while she's doing that, what do you got?
I got nothing because I do not have my books updated at this point. I don't know.
Okay. Joni?
I am running numbers right now on my spreadsheet as we speak.
All right, good. All right. All right, so here's another question for you then, right? What's your most profitable transaction type? Do you make more money on buyers or on sellers?
Well, yeah, because sellers.
Buyers. Absolutely.
Yeah, buyers for me, Todd.
Okay, so you make more money on buyers? Okay.
Do we figure in our time for that or just money?
Oh, that's a great question. You know, I mean, for those of you who, for those of you who like are operating teams, for example, the answer will be very different, right? I think where people get confused sometimes is they think, you know, and Robert just put something on the chat. Yeah, but sellers get you buyers, which is totally true if you're doing your marketing correctly. But many of you are operating, you know, different platforms like Boomtown or Conversion or Offers or Commissions Inc. or any number of those. And you all are spending a lot of money to generate buyer leads, right? So are buyers really less expensive or more profitable, right?
It's true.
Here we go. Anybody know which lead source is the most profitable versus the least profitable for them? This one we're going to dig in a little bit, right? Because this is an important one. And this one, if you guys have been involved in coaching, part of your coaching, right, is your cost per lead and understanding, you know, the core four and what happens and which ones have the highest ROI and so on and so forth, right? So I knew that would weed some people out. Like we had a bunch of people just hang up. So let's dig in a little bit. Jeannie, what's your most profitable lead source?
Referrals.
Okay, referrals from past client sphere of influence or referrals from other brokers?
A little of both, but mostly past clients and sphere.
Okay. Who wants to answer what's the least? What's the least profitable? Kelly, I'll give you another shot. What's your least profitable lead source? She's just ignoring me now. Becky, how about you?
I'm not sure. I don't know. I don't worry about the least profitable ones. I focus on the profitable, I guess.
Okay. Jeff, what are you seeing in your neck of the woods? What's the least profitable lead source in your world?
The Zillow leads and Realtor.com, those types of things.
Okay.
Todd, I would say relocation.
Relocation is the least profitable?
Yeah.
What do you spend in relocation marketing?
Well, I don't spend money on the marketing, but they just take so much. I mean, it's if you want to consider that a lead source, it's not that I spend money to market to them, but they take such a big cut of the commission.
Okay. So that's interesting, right? Because I would look at that and go, okay, I didn't spend anything. So that probably from a percentage standpoint has the highest ROI of all of them.
Hmm.
Unless I started kind of monkeying with, value of time and that kind of stuff. Make sense?
Yep.
Yeah, I think that one probably has the highest profitability of all of them. Anybody else?
Which one has the highest profitability, are you saying?
Was that Robert?
Yes.
Yeah. What's the most profitable lead source that you have?
What would you?
No, I'm sorry, I said least profitable. What's the least profitable lead source that you have?
I have to say my most profitable, at least this last year, was Zillow. I got some really good.
What was least?
Realtor.com. So
Okay.
that was a waste of my time, I felt like.
Okay. So if you are tracking and you are measuring and you are really understanding the expense associated with the lead source and understanding the cost per lead, right? You'd be able to make some pretty cool decisions about, gosh, you know what? Like that one only returned, well, some of you are going, holy crap, once you look at the numbers, you realize it's not returning anything, right? But some of you may find that, there's this one is 1 for 1 or maybe even 2 for 1. Through your coaching, you should at this point have identified clearly any lead source that I do has to at least give me an ROI of X, right? And Christy, I'll pick on you just because I know you know the answer. But what any lead source that you put into play has to have, what's the minimum ROI? You're muted.
Yeah, sorry. This is my weakness, Todd. I do not know my cost per lead, and I don't know what my return is on most of them, and I don't know what it should be.
Okay.
So,
who has done this exercise that would like to share with us? Chickens. Robert, talk to me, dude. Help them out.
Hey, Todd, I just concur with Christy on her same two things on the corporate referral being the highest cost, where you've got a 30 or 40% commission coming out of that.
Uh-huh.
To me, that's a bigger number than expense to any other lead source marketing to that group.
So
and I would also,
least profitable lead source for you, or is that the most?
Yes, least profitable, the corporate referral.
Okay. So
and
how
then
much
the most
you spend for the corporate referrals?
Again, with Christy, I don't spend an advertising expense to market to that. It usually comes through the Cardis network.
Right.
And again, those can carry a 40% referral fee to it. Per transaction, that can be kind of a big number. And I also concur that the referrals from your sphere of influence, past clients, are your highest margin client. Because you've already got them, you didn't have to spend anything to reacquire them like a new lead source.
Okay, yeah, that wasn't Christy, that was Jeannie.
Yeah, Jeannie.
I would just challenge you guys. I hear you on the corporate referral. If you think this is what I would do. If you think that that's an expensive area, I would stop doing it. Like, just take yourselves out of that and go spend the money that you are spending, quote unquote, on corporate referrals. Spend it someplace else. I think you might be looking at it incorrectly. In your P&Ls, you'll have an expense. In there, you have an expense for farming. If you're doing geographic farming or what have you, you'll have a mail expense. In there, you'll have expenses that are associated with your past clients and sphere of influence, and that's probably your newsletters or your events or what have you. In there, you'll have an expense associated with your open houses because you're doing mega open houses and you're doing special giveaways and swag and all of that kind of stuff. In there, you're going to have a line item for expense for Zillow and Realtor and that kind of stuff. You're spending money, so therefore the profitability of it becomes a return on investment number. a multiplier, if you will, on the money that you're spending. With any kind of referral source, like I don't care if it's a, you know, I don't know, like a broker to broker, right? Somebody from another coldwell banker calls up and says, you know, I send somebody over there and it's 40%, then if it doesn't cost you anything to get the lead, then you had zero, and so all of it is profitability. And the only variable to that would be if it were a listing, then you'd have some expense with the marketing side, but you'd have that anyway. So does that make sense? Am I explaining that correctly?
It's fascinating because you really can look at it from both sides. You know, you're making less, but you haven't spent a single thing, so it's 100% profit, no matter what. But when you look at the 45% referral fee or whatever, I think that's where agents are like, that just cost me a ton.
Yeah,
Just
it would suck to have that be your primary or only source of income, without question, right? I think your corporate referral stuff, like all of these things, you've got to have 6, 8 different lead sources. And that would just be one of them. What I'm asking is, which is the least profitable, right? And we do this exercise with coaching clients through our cost per lead tracker, because oftentimes what you'll find is people have a feeling that this is a great lead source until they actually look at the numbers and look at how much time is allocated to it. And then all of a sudden they go, holy crap, like I'm making 3 times on this, I'm making 14 times on this, but this one sucks all the life out of me. Maybe I should do less of this and more of this, right?
Yeah, I'm surprised, Todd, no one has said farming yet, because farming is this expense that is monthly and it takes months to generate anything.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we've got several agents here in Sun Valley farming, and I just, come on, we got to get something out of it, but it's monthly expenses. No one has said that's a low profitability.
I think.
Well, here's the good news. For those of you that were able to answer the question definitively, it means that you're tracking and measuring, and data is power, right? And so well done, like, and continue to do that. For those of you that aren't, you really need to focus in on that. Get with your coach, ask him or her for your cost per lead tracker, right? It's called, I think on the drive, it's called CPL tracker. It's very, very powerful, and will arm you with the data points. So next question on here would be, what additional revenue sources can you develop?
property management, which kind of sucks.
Yeah, could be property management. Somebody had well, no, I think it was Christy was talking about rental property. That'd be another source, right?
I know, Todd, for me, one that's kind of untapped is the outgoing referral fee. I don't focus on that area as much as I should. And it's like a no-brainer of a thing to do.
Right.
You know, you make a phone call, you sign an outgoing commission form, and get a check a few months later.
Right. Yeah. It's great. Any other ideas? Other revenue sources?
You can do BPOs.
Okay. Love that.
Could do some more psychographic type farming. And this is always in front of me. I just haven't done it very much yet. Is marketing to nonprofit groups and maybe people who are volunteering or executives of different nonprofits.
So are you talking about marketing to them for brokerage?
I have a gifting program where I give back a certain amount with each transaction, and I let my clients choose which nonprofit I give to. So what I see doing is farming to those nonprofits. Say, hey, this could be worth something to you.
Yeah.
This could be, $500. This could be worth $500.
Okay.
Whatever.
So we've got property management, we've got rentals, we've got go buy a rental, we've got do BPOs. What are some other things?
Other businesses outside of real estate.
Sure, there could be other businesses outside of real estate. There could be some, we've got a couple of people who have design and/or staging companies. Got a couple that are not appraisers, but inspection services. All right, so next one on the list. What do you currently have forced savings set up? Meaning a check comes in, X% of it goes over here, X% of it goes over there, X% of it goes over there. Does anybody currently do that? If you please unmute yourself. Yes, okay.
Yes.
Who was that that said yes?
Adam.
Adam, all right. Would you care to share that with us? How does that work for you? Give us a best practice.
I automatically take 35% immediately out of any commission and stick it in for taxes and then figure out if I need.
You save for taxes?
Well, until I go to spend it on other things for business.
Well, at least you're honest.
Christy, I do too.
Okay.
I went to a summit a couple of years ago where Tom talked about that, setting up your bank accounts so that it would automatically funnel into different accounts, and my bank doesn't do that. I set up all the accounts, so I have all these accounts, which my accountant really hates. But so it doesn't automatically funnel, but I do have an Acorns account, which I love. If you don't know about that, it's an app that rounds up your credit card purchases and deposits it, and then you can also do a monthly or a weekly set amount as well. So I do that, and then I also have the kids' college fund set up on automatic deposit once a month, and a couple other things like that. So forced savings, and it just goes out, and I'm really happy it's in there.
Yeah, that's awesome. Hey, Robert, I saw that you had a bunch of different numbers. Can you share with us what that is?
Sure. So 30% back to the business, 30% to personal and life, 30% for taxes, and then 10% for investments.
Nice. That's great.
And I just have a little spreadsheet. I mean, I don't know if my bank account would do it automatically or not, but I just have a little spreadsheet that I've got those equations punched into. And then I just kind of copy and paste that section for each closing. So I at least just put in the net commission number in one spot, and then it spits out the 30, 30, 30, 10 for me. And then I just go manually transfer those funds where they need to go.
Great. Thank you. Anybody else want to share anything on how they do forced savings? All right. Next on the list. When's the last time you went through and looked at all of your expenses? Literally every single expense, and made a determination as to whether or not they were still valid. Anybody guilty of like signing up for all of these different things on your credit card, like those little subscriptions, and they're like $9 and $29 and that kind of stuff, and then never using any of it? I know Shannon spent, 9 months going through line by line by line by line, all of our expenses, creating budgets that were actually correct and amazing. Wonder what that would look like for you if you had a budget that you knew was exactly right, that you could count on it, that was predictable and duplicatable. How would that feel in your business and in your life? Pretty cool, huh? Anybody done the expense deal here recently they want to share a funny story about? I know there's got to be some good ones.
I did it, and I discovered I eat out way too much.
That's great. You found that out, right? What an easy way to save some money, right?
Yeah, and eat better too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anybody else?
Lee Brown, where is she? North Carolina, South Carolina? She's a CRS president. She says that she cancels her business credit card once a year. Just so then the people that have automatic payments set up will have to contact her, and she can decide at that time if she wants to keep going with it or not. It's easier than trying to go in and cancel them all. But so I tried that once, and it wasn't that easy. I mean,
No,
you know,
I
when you cancel all your automatic payments that you've got set up, it's a pain in the ass. So I wouldn't recommend that.
Yeah, right. That's funny. Anybody else have any other experiences like Joni that where they looked at their P&L and went, holy crap, like I eat out that much, or I didn't know I spent that much on marketing or that kind of thing? Thanks, Becky. Is that the Dave Ramsey deal? We'd love to hear from you. You can absolutely talk to us.
No,
Okay.
I did. We did that. I found out I drink too much wine. Most people won't be surprised by that.
I love it.
And then the day we started it, I ordered like 3 pairs of shoes, and they came in. So I had to bring all the boxes here and threw them in the dumpster so my husband wouldn't find out, because I didn't want him to know.
That's funny.
So no telling on me. No telling.
Yeah, right. No telling. It's recorded.
Yeah, he can't get to it though, right? It's a secret. Right. Like what stays at Coldwell Banker, what happens at Coldwell Banker stays at Coldwell Banker.
Yeah. It's just, you know, knowing your expenses and going back through them. I mean, what a great way to trim the fat, so to speak, and really understand some real basic areas, because all those dollars add up. And so in your businesses, as you look at different ways that you can attack your P&Ls, understand your numbers better, that's a real simple one. For those of you that are teams, so I'm looking for your team participation. Who on your team converts at the top? Klieger, who's the top? Who's the top on your team?
Olin.
Olin's the closer, top converter.
Yeah, he's a top converter. He's laughing in the background too.
I could hear him. Yes, I can hear him in stereo. Christy, top converter on your team.
Well, conversion rates depend upon accurate tracking. And I wouldn't say that all of my agents yet are accurately tracking, but I believe that it's Mike.
Okay. So coaching opportunity, right? Just coaching moment.
Yes.
Wouldn't it be interesting if the rules for your team's lead distribution were predicated on specific actions being taken by your team members? Like if you respond within X period, these are the ones we know, right? These are the real easy ones, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, you have to respond, you know, within X period of time, otherwise you get bounced, right? You can't have anything in the red, right? On your deal. Those are simple. But what if it was also like you have to have your numbers in every day? What if it was, gosh, who was it? Treasure Davis.
Mm-hmm.
I love it. She has a form that her people have to fill out every single day at 7:30. Every day. If they don't fill it out, they're just out of the lead rotation for the following day.
Yeah.
That would be interesting.
And I have to coach myself before I can coach my team members, because if
lead the
I'm
lead.
not filling out my tracking form every day,
Yeah.
then I can't expect them to. So
Yeah.
it's a challenge. I tell you, as busy as we are, making sure that you're putting in the number of calls, the number of follow-ups, the number of past clients you've contacted every day, how many contracts you wrote, how many appointments you went on. It's a challenge to get it done every day for all of us.
What if you started smaller? What if you started with, you know what, all we're going to do is we're going to report the number of phone calls I made, the number of appointments I scheduled, the number of appointments I attended. Like, what if you just started that?
Could do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Who else is on a team that's on this call? Kelly, are you there?
I am.
All right. Who's the top converter on your team?
Kelly Spahar.
Kelly Spahar.
Yep.
Okay.
Who's a hound
Who's
dog.
the least? Who's the bottom?
Oh, probably myself. No, like it's. That's why I hand them off to Kelly's sitting back here. Sorry. She's,
No, I know. I asked the question because I knew you guys were all in that room together.
He asked the question because he knew we were all in the room together.
I hope you just got $20 from Kelly S. Kelly.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
No,
But
it's all right.
it's
It's
an
good. It's
interesting.
true. I didn't just say that.
It's an interesting question. I won't put you on the spot any more than that, Kelly. But it's an interesting question because here's the thing, right? When you know the answer, you have the opportunity to help those who are not as good become better, right? And in your business, just like in our business or any business for that matter that has anything to do with sales, if you can take the bottom quarter of the agents and you can help them get to the third quarter, instead of being on the fourth quarter, they get to the third quarter, it has a massive impact on your team. Yeah. Jeff Renevere, I mean, we know your wife is the top converter, and so maybe she can train you a little bit. I don't know.
Yeah, no question.
Okay, just check. Robert Yazbek, you talk to me, brother. Who's the top converter on your team?
I'd say that'd be me.
Okay, and so then the least. What are the rules for lead distribution within your team?
Team's not big enough to have those yet, I suppose.
How do you determine?
And they're not in place.
Okay, so how do you determine who gets what lead between you and your teammate?
I just decide depending on the needs of that client and availability of myself and my teammate.
Okay, Christy, what are the rules for lead distribution on your team?
Respond to lead within 5 minutes. If you can't respond, you reroute the lead. Right now, I have different team members on different lead systems. So there's equal footing for certain team members within Zillow, and then there's equal footing for certain team members within Boomtown. So as my newer agents gain more experience, they will go into rotation on more systems. But we're kind of in flux, with where everybody is at a certain amount of time, and not everybody on the team has the same opportunity for all the leads.
Right. Anybody else? Kelly, you want to share how you guys do it?
Pretty similar to Christy, actually. Jamie is primarily listings. So she gets a lot of the listing leads. Kelly and Marge are primarily buyer's agents. A good number of our leads at this point are coming from Chipeta Estates. We have a model home up there. So obviously the agent that's sitting at the model home gets those leads. Or if we get an inquiry that's for up there, then I pass it off to whoever is going to be at the model, either currently or next.
Great. Awesome. Okay, so good stuff, you guys, good stuff. So here's one last one for you. We've come up with a bunch of different ideas associated with making sure that you have a budget, right? Making sure that you know what your average cost per sale is, right? knowing what your cost per sale is, so that you can determine whether or not that's high, low, where you can cut it, right? Identifying what your most profitable transaction is, right? And I'm just gonna challenge each of you. I know that most all of you said the most profitable transaction type is buyer. Be careful, okay? Be careful. If you are operating Boomtown, if you're operating Conversion, if you're operating Zillow, like whatever it is, be careful. Those leads are coming to you, but they're coming to you at an extremely high cost, right? I think on this call, I know Schilling's numbers, so I think Robert's probably is legitimately the most profitable is on Zillow. He's also in a market where, $5, $10 million places is not that big of a deal, right? Be careful. People, they think, oh, well, on the listing side, I have to do the marketing and I've got to do the sign and all these kinds of things. It doesn't always work out that way. So make sure you're operating on data. Be data driven. So now we know what our most profitable transaction type is. If we're tracking that stuff, we also know what our least profitable transaction type is. We know exactly what our most profitable lead sources are. Okay. Again, if you don't, there are opportunities for you to dig in. You also know what your least profitable is, right? Is there a way to increase its profitability, or should we put that in the round file and find a more profitable type lead source? That 80-20 rule when it comes to your lead gen is really important. 80% of your money is going to the staples, right? The ones that you can trust, the ones that you know are going to be coming at you, and then 20% is test, right? Always be testing, right? We talked about additional revenue sources. Are there some other areas that we can be generating some income? We talked about forced savings account, making sure that the money that we're bringing in is going in the right places. Right? We talked about reviewing our expenses and making sure that we knew, all right, so where is our money going and should we be cutting that? Is there a way to cut it? Is there a way to outsource it? That kind of thing, right? We talked about knowing who is converting at the highest level on your team so that you can establish clear, reasonable lead distribution. Because what would happen if you could increase conversion by 10%? Be off the charts, right? I was in a room last week where there was a lady who, and I think it might have been, well, I want to say it was conversion, but I don't know. It was one of those online deals. And everybody was saying, oh, it's like, 1%, 2% was the conversion rate. And she was at 9.8%. Imagine what would happen, Robert Schilling, if suddenly you were able to convert those Zillow leads at an even higher rate. What would that happen? Sometimes that means making sure that the leads go to the right people. Sometimes that means identifying who's challenged and training them up a little bit. But it always means that you have to be tracking. The last one would be, what would happen if you increased your average sales price by 20%? What would that look like?
Everybody's too happy to respond.
Right? It's going to be one of those deals that it's the standoff. Jeannie Keel, what happens to your expenses if you increase your average sales price by 20%?
They probably go up a little bit by ordering a CB3 over CB2 or CB2 over CB1.
Okay.
I would think they go up a little, but not a lot.
So like what percentage do they go? Will they go up 20%? Your expenses?
No, I wouldn't think so.
No, right? So is it a good idea? Well, I mean, what is it? What's the bottom line increase? Like if you increase 20%, do your expenses go up 5%? So does that give you a 15% increase in your income because it goes to your bottom line? Is that right? Like what? Think about that for a second. Think about how much money you made last year and just increase it by 15%. Yeah, would you like that? Right? So what are the things that you would have to do? Let's give some ideas. Like what are some ideas behind increasing your average sales price by 20%?
You could farm neighborhoods with a higher sale price.
Awesome. Love farming. Farming's killer. So just target a more affluent neighborhood. Love it. What else?
Yeah, Todd, I've been told in the past that, depending on where you're going to market to, make sure that you're hanging out and present in places where your potential clients are present. And if your potential clients are golf club members that have the $1 million homes around the golf course, but you're hanging out on the public 9-hole course, maybe you're not interacting enough with your client type. So if you want to increase that cost per sale, like Christy said a little bit, realign who and where and what neighborhood you're marketing to.
Love it. Love it. So we got farming and we've got go be where they're at. I love it. What else?
Promote your past successes in the higher price ranges.
Yeah, certainly. Also staying in touch with your past clients and sphere of influence. I mean, people don't typically sell down, right? They may downsize, right? But again, the life cycle of somebody's purchases of homes is typically, single to married to one kid to, oh my gosh, we've got twins to, all right, they're finally out of the house to, empty nesters, right? So there's a life cycle that's a big one. What else? What are some other ways?
Does anyone ever turn down a listing because the price point is a little bit too low and it's going to impact that? I know we have a lot of agents in our company that do high-end stuff, but the low-end thing, and I don't know if it always serves you as you're trying to move up to have a super low-end. I don't know.
Yeah, I'd be the last one to ask. I did a $40,000 trailer in the Meadows one year. At the same time, did an $8.5 million house. So I got the smallest and biggest sale of the year award.
Yeah. Well, Christy and Stephanie in Grand Junction and Sun Valley both brought on listings for $115,000 in the same week, while they were, I think, both had sales, up in the $800,000 range. That was pretty cool. But it hurt their average sales price too.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah.
Well, there are certain things that I would refer to other agents. There's certain trailer parks that I don't really want my sign in. But I have got 2 trailers right now and they're both good past clients, and I'm not going to send those to somebody else. So depends on the property and the client.
Luckily, we've got Global Luxury signs and Coldwell Banker regular signs. Anybody else have any other ideas as to ways you might be able to increase your average sales price?
Todd, I just crunched the numbers real quick, and if my average sale price went up by 20%, my take-home commission amount would have been $12,000 more last year.
That'd be pretty good, huh?
Be nice for kind of doing nothing.
Right, exactly. All right, well, if you guys don't have any other ideas, hopefully out of today, what you should have is you should have a sort of goals for what my 3-year wealth plan is. Some very specific actions that I can take to get there on one piece of paper. On the other, you should have a better understanding of how many ideas did we come up with? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 different ways that you can attack your P&Ls to have a positive impact on your annual revenues, right? Y'all, it's not rocket science, but it is a lot of work, right? I mean, you just have to commit yourself to actually doing it. If you need any help, please, number one, send your wealth plan to your coaches, but ask. We have all of these tools. We're running a business just like you are. So there aren't any questions that you can't ask that are going to stump us, right? We got it. But definitely get into your P&Ls, learn your P&Ls better, make sure that you are tracking and measuring your numbers just like you would expect anybody else in your company to do. And I guarantee you're going to have a much more profitable year. And with that roadmap, you'll actually hit those 3-year wealth goals. If there's anything we can do for you, please let us know. Have a good one, you guys.
Thanks, Todd. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks.